Welcome back. So let's do today the second order sufficiency conditions for the NEP problem. So recall what is our NEP problem, that it is minimize f of x subject to the set of constraints h1 x equal to 0, h2 x equal to 0 up to hm of x equal to 0, and x comes from Rn. And we are going to take, because we are talking of second order optimality conditions, clearly we are going to assume that f and hi's are all twice continuously differentiable. Now, necessary conditions are always inbuilt in the sufficiency condition. So first what we are going to do, we are going to write a Lagrangian function. So how do you write the Lagrangian function? You write you write Lagrangian function as f of x plus, either you write it as lambda transpose hx in vector form, or take each one of the constraints, multiply the ith constraint by the Lagrangian multiplier h of lambda of I times hi of x, and then together this becomes my Lagrangian function. Now x is of course in from Rn, and since we are writing sufficiency condition, so we are not going to say here that let x star be optimal. Instead, what we are going to say is, if the x star satisfy following conditions, then it is a strict local minimum. So there is a difference in the way the whole thing is presented. The necessary condition, we say let x star be an local optimal, then it must satisfy the following. Here we say let x star be a point which satisfies following set of conditions. If it satisfies, then it means it is a strict local minimum. A strict local minimum means positive curvature everywhere in the feasible region that is being considered. So necessary conditions, as I said, is a inbuilt in the sufficiency condition. So first of all, there will exist x star and lambda star such that the x star lambda star is a stationary point of the Lagrangian function. So its partial derivatives gradient vector with respect to x will be 0, and when you take it with respect to lambda, then it means what is going to come out is basically the function h of x of star, which should be 0, which means that it should be feasible. The additional requirement in sufficiency, the second order requirement, is that the projected Hessian of the Lagrangian function over the null space of the Jacobian of the constraints should be positive definite. If you recall, for necessary conditions, we had just said they should be positive semi-definite. Now we are saying that if this projected Hessian here, that means if you write the null space basis of del of h of x of star transpose z is equal to 0, then z transpose this Lagrangian function second derivative times of z should be SPD. There's another way of writing it, or the way Burtsikas has written it is that you let H come from H be the set of all vectors such that they are in the null space. Then each of such vector in the null space will give a positive curvature with respect to the Hessian of the Lagrangian function. Now I am not going to prove this theorem. I am just going to work out an example for you to see how it is applied. So let us say that we are trying to maximize the volume area, surface area of a parallelepiped with x1, x2 and x3. Then it will be a scalar multiple, probably 2 times of x1, x2 plus x2, x3 plus x1, x3, correct? So we want to maximize 2 times of x1, x2 plus x2, x3 plus x3 x1. But since this we are more interested in x star, so this 2 is a common factor, we can ignore it. And we like to write our maximization, we don't like to write maximization problems. Notationally we are consistently writing them as minimization problems. So therefore we are writing it as minimizing minus x1 x2 plus x2 x3 plus x1 x3. And what is the constraint? It makes only sense if there is a constraint. The constraint is on the perimeter, which is that x1 plus x2 plus x3 equal to 1. So now I think probably I have discussed this problem earlier, doesn't matter. Uh, First write the Lagrangian function. So the Lagrangian function is going to be minus of x1 x2 plus x2 x3 plus x1 x3 plus lambda or times of x1 plus x2 plus x3 minus 1. Now take its partial derivative with respect to x1 and set it to 0. So what will you get? Minus x2 minus x3, because minus is sitting common here, plus lambda star to be equal to 0. Similarly, when you take the partial derivative with x2, you will get x3 star plus x1 star, I mean with both coming with a minus sign, plus of lambda star equal to 0. And when you take partial derivative with respect to x3, you will get minus x2 star minus x1 star plus lambda star to be equal to 0. So then basically from the symmetry, we can easily argue that x1 star plus x2 star equal to x3 star equal to 1. You can brute force also work it out. This much will come out of symmetry. Then this has to satisfy. So we have to have, I'm just sorry, maybe I made a mistake here. We want this to be equal to 3. So all of the 3 being equal, this should be equal to 1. And then when you substitute 1 here, lambda star becomes 2. And you can see that if any equation, it doesn't matter, you get the same lambda star. So this is the unique solution to this particular problem. So then you look at the projected gradient Hessian, sorry, you look at the Hessian of the Lagrangian function. So the lambda terms will not give you any second order derivative. In this case, their contribution will be 0. So therefore, no lambda star is going to come into it. And there is no term corresponding to x1 square, x2 square or x3 square. So because there is no term connected to x1 square, x2 square and x3 square, the diagonal terms are here 0. And if you take partial derivative with minus x1, partial derivative of, with respect to x1 and x2, then this minus 1 will come out from here. So therefore you get a minus 1 here. And the same is going to be with respect to partial derivative of L with respect to x2, x1. So therefore minus 1. And then similarly, you can see that all the f of diagonals will consist of minus ones. So now you have got the Hessian matrix which is associated with the Lagrangian function. Now what is the Jacobian corresponding to the Jacobian which corresponds to the equality constant? In this case the constant itself is linear, so the Jacobian is also going to be 1 1 1, which I call as the vector U transpose. U stands for unity, so therefore the null space has to be all the vectors in the null space of the Jacobian of the equality constraints correspond to the fact that U transpose Y should be equal to 0, or in an expanded form y1 plus y2 plus y3 should be equal to 0. Now what do we want? We want that this projected Hessian y transpose we want this curvature of the y corresponding to movement along the y vector which is in the null space. For that we want the curvature to be positive. So let's calculate this. So you will multiply first from right hand side y1, y2, y3. So what will come out common here? Minus y2 plus y3. So this will give you to a vector like minus y2 plus y3 minus y1 plus y3 and minus y1 plus of y2. So y minus of y2 plus y3, minus of y1 plus y3, and minus of y1 plus y2. And this vector minus of y2 plus y3, y1 plus y3, y1 plus y2 is to be multiplied from here by right y1, y2, y3, this vector here. So then you will group this term with this term. You will get minus of y1 minus y1 times of y2 plus y3, and then you will next term will come out to be minus y2 of y1 plus y3, and the third term will come out to be minus y3 times of y1 plus y2. Now substituting y2 plus y3 as minus y1, this becomes minus plus y1 square. Then substituting y1 plus y3 as minus y2, this minus y2 multiplied by y2 will become y2 square, and the third term will become y3 square. And since the y vector should be non-zero vector, it is now clear that this vector will be strictly greater than 0. Hence, first order conditions are met, second order curvature information on the appropriate null space is positive. So the sufficiency condition is satisfied, and 111 is a strict local minimum of f. So this is important. If you just stop at necessary condition, that's not good enough. Necessary condition is satisfied and a function is convex. Of course, then it should mean that it is a local minimum. Otherwise, if it's a generic function and the necessary conditions are satisfied, then it doesn't mean that it is a local minimum. It could be a local minimum is all it means. You have to further look into it. If the sufficiency conditions are satisfied, it is indeed a strict local minimum. And if the sufficiency conditions are not satisfied, then the answer becomes problem dependent. Another very important thing, and I think I had mentioned this when I did LEP and LIP problem, was that the Lagrangian multipliers contain the sensitivity information. Lagrangian multipliers contain the sensitivity information, which is to say that suppose I take a very simple problem, minimize f of x subject to one single constraint, A transpose x is equal to b. Now, let's say x star be a let's say x star be a local minimum. Now, suppose you perturb b by b plus delta b. By a small amount delta b, you perturb it, so it becomes b plus delta b. And let's say that the optimal changes by delta x. So the optimal becomes x star plus delta x. The new minimum is at x star plus delta x. Then the question is how much is the change in the cost of the objective function. So this information can be connected to Lagrangian multiplier as shown below. So first of all, uh, what is it? A transpose x star plus delta x is equal to b plus delta b. But because A transpose x star is equal to b, so you get A transpose delta x to be equal to delta b. That's what I have written here. Now the second thing is you will write Lagrangian function as f of x plus lambda. Since I have taken only one constraint, so A transpose minus b, this is my Lagrangian function, and if I look at its gradient at the optimal, then this star plus A times of lambda should be equal to 0. Lambda star should be equal to 0, which means gradient of this objective function should be minus of lambda star times the A vector, both of them being n cross 1 vector. Now, what is the change in the cost function or the objective function delta C? So the cost function will change by f of x star plus delta x minus of f of x star, which is same as if I do a Taylor series expansion up to first term only, and remaining terms I am clubbing it as error will be the order of the norm of delta x. Then you can see that this can be written as the f of x of star plus gradient of f of x of star delta x plus order of error in the terms of delta x minus of f of x of star So this and this goes, there is a transpose sitting here, so you get this term and this term. Now for the gradient vector here, we can substitute the transpose of this, so minus of lambda star A transpose, and then the delta x plus this first order error term, which can be but this can be written as minus of, this can be written as delta of b. So in the first order, up to first order, or as a linearized assumption, linearized approximation, you can see that delta c divided by delta b, delta c divided by delta b, negative of that is equal to lambda star. So you this is the reason why I have said, I think earlier also, that many times in economics and OR, this is called as Lagrangian multipliers are also referred as price vector, because then this is cost per unit quantity. So cost per unit quantity is nothing but the effectively a price vector. All right, so this was with single constraint. Now let's see, suppose I had multiple constraints. Suppose I had m constraints, but still I am keeping them linear. A1 transpose x equal to b1, a2 transpose x equal to b2, and so on up to am transpose x is equal to bm. Okay, and now this is disturbed by delta b vector. So delta b1, delta b2 up to delta b1 bm, and therefore the x vector, which is x1 x2 to xn, the optimal x stars, are disturbed by delta x1 delta x2 up to the change by delta xn. So now under such a situation, our question is again, what is the difference in the cost, optimal cost, due to this change in the perturbation delta B. So again, taking recourse to the Taylor series, expansion of around x star and restricting to linearization, this will come out to be delta gradient of f of x of star transpose delta x plus this first order approximation term. But now here the Lagrangian function is what? How do you write the Lagrangian function? F of x plus lambda transpose ax minus b, correct? And then when you set the gradient to 0, then this will become a transpose lambda, and regularity you can assume that f of x star plus a transpose lambda to be equal to 0. So therefore, what do I get? I get I get here, and then this means gradient can be written as minus of gradient of f of x of star can be written as minus of a transpose of lambda of star, and that is what I have substituted here. So I get here minus of lambda star a for this transpose times delta x equal to 0. So this should not be there because I am using a matrix notation. So I will get something like this. And now a delta x can be substituted by a delta, I'm sorry, a delta x can be substituted by the vector b1, delta b1, b2 to delta bm. So you expand it, this term here, you will get minus of lambda 1 star delta b1 minus of lambda 2 star delta b2, and so on up to minus of lambda m star delta bm plus first order terms like this. Hence, you can very clearly see that if you look at partial derivative of c with respect to b1 alone, it will be minus lambda 1 star and so on. So if with every constraint, if it is, so these are, suppose these are set to 0 and only this is allowed to change, then the sensitivity is minus lambda 1 star. If only this is allowed to change, sensitivity will be minus of lambda 2 of star, and so on. And if all of them are allowed to change, then you can do a linear super, you can do a superposition as